So I quit supplements and found that this is a much better way of managing my ADHD, and it's something that I have my patients start to transition to. Don't get me wrong, supplements can be a great tool, but it's really just the initial stepping stone. Same with medications to get things going, but it's not the long-term solution of managing your ADHD, especially if you don't want to rely on taking so many pills every day just to manage your ADHD. So the first thing that I needed to do was to test what was the imbalances in my body chemistry that was contributing to all these different ADHD symptoms I was experiencing. And so I didn't have to rely so much on supplements. And what I found was that there were several things that were off. For example, there were specific amino acids that are very important for the dopamine pathway that I was deficient in. Not only that, I found that there were specific vitamins that I was low on, like vitamin B6, vitamin B12, also vitamin D, and also vitamin C and zinc, which are all very vital for helping with different neurotransmitters. And so it made sense that why I was experiencing what I was experiencing with my symptoms. I also had different hormones that were off. For example, my cortisol levels were just completely plummeted, which explained a lot of why I was completely burnt out, didn't have the focus and energy throughout the day. And so I knew I needed to address this. And so what I needed to do was I needed to focus on specific nutrition that targeted the deficiencies and not rely so much on the supplements or even medications. So I don't take medications. So if you're thinking like that's the replacement, no. I replaced my supplements in the medication with specific targeted nutrients that helped that. And that was focusing more on specific amino acids that I was deficient in to help improve my dopamine levels. It also was targeting specific vitamins that I can get through my diet, through different vegetables, fruits, and just other good sources of nutrition. It also meant incorporating more fish and eggs and getting more sunlight exposure to improve my vitamin D levels without having to supplement that consistently. And it also just meant I need to be consistent with on a regular basis. Otherwise, my symptoms would creep back. But what I noticed when I started to implement the specific nutrients that I needed, I didn't have to rely on the supplements. I started to get rid of them. And I noticed that my symptoms didn't get worse because all of a sudden I stopped my supplements. They actually improved because I was consistent with the nutrition. And something I have my patients and clients do the same, because that's the ultimate goal, is using food as medicine and lifestyle as medicine and not relying on a pill. Now, I get this a lot of information, so you should just download my ADHD free health guide that really kind of goes over, if you need to start with supplements, it'll go over that list. But if you want to start transitioning away from that, it'll talk about the different labs to implement and nutrition to implement to start using food and lifestyle as medicine. And again, that is in the description below and it's free. Now, the other very vital thing that I have found that's pivotal to manage my ADHD consistently throughout the years that I've been doing this without having to rely on supplements. Now, I just want to say is that I don't really use supplements at all. The only time that I do is when I'm doing like those 30-day challenges for you guys, when I'm testing a supplement to test it for my patients to see if it would improve my ADHD, but I still don't tend to stick with it unless I find it life-changing, and then I might stick with it for a while. But I always go back to these different lifestyle changes. And the next big one that I have found that has been always pivotal for me is doing consistent detoxification of the body. So back in the day, I dealt with really severe digestive issues. I had IBS. And so the gut and brain are very interconnected. And when that is disrupted so much, that definitely causes issues for absorption. And so I had to consistently detoxify the body, and I found that that helped manage my gut, but also importantly is the type of detoxification. I've done lots of different detox protocols, but one of my favorite ones to do is just consistently fasting. And so what I do on a consistent regular basis, and I do change this up, but what I always go back to is doing about 2 days out of the week where I'll do a 36-hour fast. So that means 36 hours of no food, but hydrating yourself, and doing it twice a week. So typically I might do it like Monday and then Thursday to kind of give it some space in that time. Now I'll have periods where I'll go back to doing where I'll do alternate day fasting, where every other day I'll fast, or I'll do some other different styles, but that's usually the one I always go back to. And the reason why this is so powerful for helping managing my ADHD is because it's getting rid of a lot of toxic exposures that we get exposed to every day. And people with ADHD are more sensitive to toxicities. And so it is prevalent that we need to constantly be detoxifying, especially people with ADHD. But the other thing that's so powerful about fasting is it starts to unlock a different fuel source for the brain. So the brain relies a lot on sugar as fuel. And sure, it can be dependable. The only problem with this is if your blood sugar levels are inconsistent, you can have hyper focus and then you can plummet with your energy and your focus. Whereas when you are in a fasted state, you go to where you use ketones as a fuel source. The brain starts using that, and that is actually more consistent. And that is what I have found, that the days that I'm fasting, I can be really consistent with what I need to work on and not be distracted so easily and have the energy to do so. Another really key component to managing my ADHD without supplementation is what I do in the mornings and the evenings. Now, I hate complicated morning routines. I'm not a big proponent about it, but I do believe that there is few things that are very vital for my own ADHD and managing it, and also the patients that I work with. And in the morning, I think one of the most important things, especially for me, is getting outside and getting movement right away. And it doesn't mean going for a run. You can just go for a walk. That's what I do. And this is just to get circulation going, but also it helps me get exposure to light because my vitamin D levels tend to be low. And so it also helps with my circadian rhythm to get good quality of sleep. And that's what I do need on a consistent basis. The only additional thing that I really kind of focus on in the morning is to make sure I drink a big glass of water. That way I get a good bowel movement, get things moving so that I don't get distracted by my digestive system, but also keep myself hydrated. And I'll talk about that here in just a minute. And then the other thing that I do is really look at the 3 things that I wrote the night before, which goes into my evening routine. So what these 3 things are, is writing down the 3 things that are the most important to me. So my evening routine is obviously the typical stuff, brush your teeth and typical stuff you do go to bed. But really the thing that I need to make sure is that I write down the 3 things that I need to accomplish the next day. So that way in the morning, I review it and I go right to work and become productive. And the only additional thing is I just make sure that the lights are turned down. I'm not looking at my phone. I'm usually either reading something with dim lights or I'm typically listening to something to help me wind down to fall asleep so I get a good night's rest. Now, the other additional thing that I think is vital is definitely exercise. This by far really helps manage my ADHD. So I'm curious, in the comments, let me know if you've been consistent with exercise and for some reason you got off track and you stopped exercising for a week or 2. Did your ADHD symptoms get worse? Because I know it does for me. Anytime that I get off track of my exercise routine, I'm at least consistently trying to at least do 3 to 4 days at the gym where I'm exercising. And then the other days, or actually pretty much every day, I am going for long walks, getting my 10,000 steps in. And I find that this is so vital for managing my ADHD. And if I get off track on that, I find that my ADHD symptoms creep in. So definitely very pivotal to ADHD management. Now, if you really need some help with this to understand what labs to get yourself on the track to order, to understand the root cause of your ADHD so you can manage your ADHD without having to rely on medications and supplements, then you could book an ADHD focus assessment with me where I'll go over your whole medical history, create a roadmap of what labs to implement and what action plan to helping you reversing your ADHD symptoms. So you can do that in the description below. Okay, I've already mentioned this one, but I need to just go a little bit more in this, but hydration is so vital with people with ADHD. People don't realize when you are dehydrated, in fact, even dehydrated for a few hours, your focus capacity, they've seen this in research, drops 50%. That's a lot. So if you find that your focus is a little off, either 2 things that I usually will tell my patients is that, are you hydrating yourself? Make sure you have water next to you, or you need to move around. Maybe you need to get up, walk for a bit, get some circulation, blood pumping to the brain. Those are things that are just vital, that are easy to do. And the next big thing that I've found to really help manage my ADHD and even with my patients is to retest. So things happen in life. And so it's important to retest labs to see, okay, I've been focusing on this. Have we seen improvements in the deficiencies? And if there is, great. And where else can we even improve more? And so it's always important to retest to see, okay, what do we need to do so we constantly are managing our ADHD without having to rely on supplementation or medications. Now, if you want me to dive deep into the lab testing that I've done for myself and what I've done with thousands of my patients, watch this video next where I go over where I've done over 11,000 different lab tests on my ADHD patients and learned this. So watch this video next.